but we're going to get started here in about 1 minute. And I got Eric Dollard is on the line with us, and Eric is actually on the line with us from the hospital. And he still wanted to do the conference call anyway, and so he's on the line from his hospital room. We'll kind of get into that a little bit, but we don't have a specific agenda plan for today, except Eric has made some pretty serious progress out on the Advanced Seismic Warning System on the antenna lines out in the desert, and he can kind of cover some of that, what's been happening in the last couple months. So we're going to get started here in about 1 minute. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start muting everybody out. And then when you want to ask a question, just hit 5*, and that will let me know to unmute you so you can ask your question. Okay, so it's 2 o'clock right now. Eric, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay. So this call is being recorded. This is Aaron Murakami. Today is November 20th, 2016 at 2 p.m. Pacific. I have Eric Dollard on the line. He's actually in the hospital due to a few health complications. So like I mentioned, Eric has made quite a bit of progress on the seismic line, and recently he was on the road and was in Lone Pine and had to get checked into the hospital, and he got flown. Eric got flown to a medical facility where he's doing okay right now. So I don't know, just since you wanted people to at least know, kind of what was going on, Eric, do you want to explain a little bit about the health concern right now, and then we can kind of get on.
Yeah, well, it's I started with uncontrollable bleeding when I was out at the Mojave end of the project, and then I went in the emergency room, and they found out that my body was not generating any more blood, and that I drained much of myself out, and was emergently flown to a major hospital in northern Nevada, where it's been determined that my bone marrow is no longer generating blood, so they have a process. They're going to have to put me through all this therapies and what have you, and I guess it's some kind of cancer situation, but I've been assured that they're going to get me back out in the desert again here before long, and I don't really have anything to worry about, so that's good, but takes me away from things for a while, but I kind of need a break anyway, so I'm not really having any worries or anything to complain about right now.
Right, and it's something that's commonly easily treatable.
Yeah, that's basically what I've been told. So the treatment is known to be effective, and then I have my own methodologies and what have you that I restore my body when it gets into bad situations. So it's scary, but I have confidence in the people here that they're going to get everything set right, and they feel confident. So that's just part of getting old. And
so up until the point to where you had to check yourself into the hospital, you and a few other people, including 1 or 2 people from the last energy conference, had actually come down there to help you on the antenna lines out in the desert. You'll maybe share with everybody kind of what kind of
yeah. We actually made quite remarkable progress. It was about a 30-day work effort because of this thing that has knocked me into the hospital bed. I wasn't really able to keep up like I would have liked to with everybody, but at any rate, we got a lot done. Justin got the wires on the cross arms for 1/4 of the Alexanderson antenna, so we have one element of the Alexanderson antennas complete. All the damaged utility poles have been replaced with the exception of one. The 1 mile long Alexanderson antenna system, the poles are in and the design is laid out. We have the 1,200-foot section up, and we were able to outfit the Corolla with all the necessary analysis equipment to make a video presentation of what's going on inside the Earth, both man-made and natural, and it's kind of a tragic situation. There's so much stray power line electricity flowing in the Earth from this aberrant utility company in the state of Nevada that the interference is roughly 16 million times stronger than the signals generated by the Earth. So it seems like this antenna project is going to be more of studying the aberrant and parasitic behaviors of the power grid in the state of Nevada than it is in determining exactly how the Earth signals operate. But unfortunately, that's what we're stuck with, but there's ways to get around that. And we were able to get significant Earth signals out of the system when we went outside of the power line frequency band and the harmonics. So basically, this being the test site, it's going to be mostly the mathematics and the phasings and the Alexanderson principle in general that'll be studied, and it'll have to be the other facility in the other desert, the Mojave Desert, where the interference isn't so bad, where the utility companies have some level of sanity left, and the interference isn't a problem. But we have another problem out there, is this species that's starting to invade the desert, which I refer to as moto filth, which I think is a very mitigated name for what it is. If ATVs, motorcycles, and devil trucks are repeatedly vandalizing and mutilating our terminals, we have to bury all of them underground. And a lot of damage was done, but the facility there that we're experimenting with is a buried cable facility, so it can be made to be protected against this mechanized human insanity that's eating away at the surface of the Earth. And when the other end, we have the electrical insanity that's causing literal rivers of electricity of hundreds to possibly even thousands of amperes of current now are surging underneath the Earth over a very widespread area. This is going to be an interesting study to see how bad this situation has become, and it will be part of the topic of my next presentation, which is going to be titled The Theory and Practice of Polyphase Power Transmission, and I think the findings will stun the audience.
Now with the power line interference, when you say getting around it, is it as simple as just putting some type of filter for those frequencies?
Well, the problem is the Earth signal frequencies that are of importance are the same as the harmonic frequencies of the power line, so we're going to have to use some more exotic techniques of taking the interference in one coordinate system of reception. This is being shown on the video, and then in that coordinate system, the Earth signals are absent, and then amplifying and attenuating and doing various things to make it match the interference that's in the Earth signal part of it and phasing it out. But the as shown in the video, is the intensity of the electrical disturbance in the ground is so severe that that by that mode, the telluric mode is reception will most likely be absolutely impossible, but using a refraction electrostatic mode where there's no current loop through the ground, we were able, with the apparatus that Steve McGreevy specially built for this project, to get acceptable Earth signals in the in the audio range with a minimum of power line harmonics, and then we can phase the other reception of power line harmonics with the absence of earth signals and cancel it out. So the system can pick up the audio frequency earth signals, but it will not be able to do it in the telluric mode. We cannot do it with ground currents. We only can do it with the electrostatic field that exists above the surface of the earth that relates to the ground currents. So it's going to be, one way or another, it's going to be an interesting study. So basically, like I say, this is the test site, which is really to analyze the overall Alexanderson principle, and if what can't be used for receiving can always be used for transmitting. So there's the power line thing opens up its own study, and there's many other avenues of the Alexanderson mode of transmission and Tesla modes of transmission that will be unaffected by the power line problem because they'll operate several octaves above that frequency. So we demonstrate that in the video by using the two prominent very low frequency transmitter signals. One is the Navy submarine broadcast system that operates out of Jim Creek. I think it's in Washington State. I'm not certain. And then there's WWVL out of Fort Collins, Colorado. So it's actually, we've got our first readings, and it's starting to get exciting now that once the next element goes up, we can start introducing the loading sections, and we can start doing a complete scientific analysis of this whole process. So we're all very, very happy that we've reached this point.
So from this point, what are the next steps? Well, first, the video you're mentioning, I should be able to pick this up sometime today. There's a copy of the video that Eric is mentioning, and there's also a whole bunch of photographs of the project. And so if not today, then tomorrow I'll have my hands on this, and I'll be putting this up on YouTube, and these photos and everything will be posted on Eric Dollard's site, which is ericpdollard.com, and that's where the video and pictures of what Eric is talking about will be posted. Let's see, it's 2:12 right now. If you just joined us in the last couple of minutes, Eric Dollard, he is in the hospital. He had some issues, health issues that we already covered at the beginning of this call, so we're not going to go over that again. But just to let you know, once this is on YouTube, you can go back and listen to it. He's doing just fine right now, and everything looks like it's going to be okay. Obviously, it is a concern, and Eric has just been reviewing the progress on the seismic project out in the desert with antenna lines, where they were able to pick up some of the earth signals, and that's what's going to be on the video that I'm going to be posting here in the near future. Now, even with the power line interference, it's kind of a hindrance there, and so it's not really going to be an earthquake monitoring station, but will be more of a test site. But there is a second site in a secret location that is in a more suitable place to where that would probably actually be used for earthquake forecasting, or
yeah, that one is in it's in the place where it's very close to a major communications relay site for a major public utility company. The public utility companies in that area are rational, and even though we have one of the biggest power lines in that part of the country, which plows right through that area, being that it's operated by a rational utility company, even though it's a 500,000 volt, 2,000 amp, three-phase power line, produces only a fraction of the interference of the 12,000 volt power line that is adjacent to our right-of-way in the other desert, which produces roughly 1 million times more interference than the 500,000 volt power line, which kind of shows you how ironically rational utility companies' massive multi-megawatt power line, almost a gigawatt power line, produces only a fraction of interference of a distribution power line operated by a irrational, idiotic utility company, which unfortunately is representative of most of the utility companies in the United States. And the telluric harmonic problem is getting so bad now that it's actually starting to short-circuit the grid, and people are getting electric shocks off of their plumbing. So we're looking at a situation here where the power grid in the United States is going to basically become an absurdity, a danger to itself and the people around it, and it will be an excellent receiving antenna for any type of nuclear EMP, and designed specifically to deliver it to the wall outlet in your household.
Before we open up for questions, is there anything else that you want to cover? Or
well, that's the main thing. That's what's going on. So
okay.
We'll bore into it now. You know, we're at the point in which we can start doing scientific work with the facilities that we have available to us.
Mm-hmm. So Eric's website is ericpdollard.com. The middle initial is P, stands for Paul. So ericpdollard.com. In the right column, there's an address in Lone Pine, California. It's a general delivery address where you can write Eric directly, and almost always he'll write you back. And there's also a PayPal link where if you do want to donate by PayPal, you can use that link. And there's you want me to go ahead and open up for questions, Eric?
Yep.
Okay. So if you have a question for Eric, it's only 2:17 right now, so we have enough time to cover quite a bit. Depends on what everybody wants to ask. So if you do have a question, hit 5*. That will give me a little sign next to your phone number, and I'll unmute you. So if your phone number ends in 608, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead and say your name, where you're from, and go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, my name's Adam. Eric, I'm one of your supporters. I have a question, please. Forgive my ignorance. The Alexanderson antenna, does that use the longitudinal wave?
Yes, that's it's a telluric system that is not electromagnetic. It uses the same type of longitudinal magnetodielectric wave that the Tesla system does.
Okay, thank you. I'll be looking into that more. So next time I'll have something intelligent to add.
Any more questions, Adam? The floor is yours.
No, that's it.
Okay. Okay, let's see. If you have any questions, just hit 5*. Nobody's doing that right now, so if nobody has questions, it's going to be a short call. But okay, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you and lower your hand. Go ahead and introduce yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, can you hear you just fine.
Perfect. All right. So, hey, guys, hey, Aaron and Professor Eric. My name is Ennis. I was actually one of the attendees for just a year back, and I just had a very quick question, actually. I've been obviously following Eric's work very closely, and recently one of the new proponents of Professor Eric's work is a man by the name of Ken Wheeler. He has a YouTube channel called The Angry Photographer, and he's a little bit obnoxious, kind of difficult to understand, but what he's done is essentially re-summarized Eric's work and very boastful about it being his own personal discovery, but he actually provides a lot of interesting diagrams that are kind of similar to the work that I've seen in Walter Russell and also Eric Dahl's work. So I was just wondering if Professor Eric has ever heard of this man, seen his work, and whether or not he would either give it a go in terms of using it as a tool to, better help the mind understand the non-physical stuff, because he does, of the electric theory, because he does offer a lot of diagrams that kind of, I guess, lend the mind with an illustration to kind of deeper hone the understanding of what's going on behind the curtains. And, in this journey, it's difficult to kind of, I guess, go about this on your own, because you're always just pondering on what you think is the archetype that's going on, but really you got to, I guess, explore further and kind of juxtapose what you, I guess, encounter until you somehow come closer to the reality. So, yeah, that's my question, really.
Did you get that, Eric?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what this other person is doing, because I don't have any personal contact with the internet, or I have to rely upon what people send me in the mail. So,
well, Eric,
if you wanted to send me some information about it, I could make my determination of, whether it was insanity or if it made any sense. Or I'm absolutely certain that there's going to be a bunch of people that are going to claim, that they know everything about it, and like, what's this Konstantin Mile is he's the big Tesla, big Tesla wrong direction right now. So I would imagine others will start to pop up for, whether deliberately or on their own, or that's why I kind of just do my own thing in my ignorance of the internet, so I'm not distracted by it. But one thing, go ahead.
This, who he's referring to is Ken Wheeler. Remember him? From
Yeah.
The last couple years.
Yeah. I remember him. He's the Greek translator.
Right. So he was posting in Energetic Forum for a while. This was before he wrote me to offer to put out his book and stuff, and even use it to help raise money for Eric. So in that sense, he made a very generous offer. We were just busy at the time, but if you go back and look at some of the posts that he made in Energetic Forum, and even in some of the YouTube posts from quite a while back, he's very clear about giving Eric credit and being very open about the fact that it was a lot of Eric's work, which was very instrumental in him coming to what his understanding is.
Yeah, I talked to him extensively on the telephone, and he seemed reasonable to me. So actually, I'm more interested in the Greek stuff than any of the other stuff he's working on, to help me understand the things of antiquity of music and all that kind of stuff. So, but I haven't heard from him in a long time.
Right. Well, I'll give you his phone number later if you want to touch base with him when you're back down at the shop. Yeah.
I actually have it.
Okay. And did you ever get a copy of the book? I don't know if anybody ever printed it.
No, I never. He said he was going to send it or whatever, and then he kind of went off the air, or I haven't heard from him, and I'm not particularly too inclined to call anybody, because I'm just wrapped up already in what I've got going on my own. So as far as there's been a lot of effort on the part of several people I know who are in positions to help implement this the seismic warning system. We've found that there's an alternative system that is quite effective, employing magnetometers. I talked to the person at Stanford University that discovered it, and then I have some people that I'm working with at NASA on this, and it's just simply, there's a complete blockage to any implementation of any type of advanced seismic warning system. It's almost on a psychological pathology level. It's not going to be allowed to happen. And that's the hardcore reality of the situation. mostly because of mental disorders and not really due to the suppression, which is the United States Geological Survey is the main suppressor of this work. NASA is actually one of the biggest innovators I've discovered in a lot of these type of things, and they keep getting pushed aside. And the scientists seem to have a mental disorder that all they want to do is write papers and produce theories, and there's just a complete blockage to bringing this to an engineering level. And then on the other end, the utility company engineers are very interested, but they can't get the executives to go along with it, and it, as we've all gotten together and talked about this situation, I regard it as hopeless that anything is going to be implemented before California gets the big kick in the ass.
Did you have any more questions?
Yeah, actually, if you don't mind, I'd love to have one more follow-up question. Just a little bit more on the topic of Ken Wheeler, not exactly about his work per se, but one of the things he actually uses to demonstrate his knowledge or understanding of the situation is a device called a ferrocell. And although it's not something new per se, because I've seen magnetic films before where you can, put magnets and actually have the unseen world, so to speak. But this particular ferrocell that he uses is based on optically flat glass that has very finely, I think in the nanometer range, particulates, ferroparticulates, which makes obviously the ferrofluid layer. And it's actually insane as to the kind of depth and projection of the image that shows of the actual magnetic fields that are involved, or if they even are the magnetic fields, which is actually what my question is. If Eric has seen these pictures and seen these very interesting, I guess you could say, images of the magnetic fields, if you could comment on whether or not those are the actual structures of the magnetic fields, or I believe, I don't want to be quoted for this exactly, but I believe Ken Wheeler says that they're actually the counterspatial fields that are being shown as a result in the image. So the only reason why I'm asking this question is because I know a lot of this stuff is not exactly physical. I mean, the other half is completely not in the physical realm. But for me, at least, when I'm trying to understand these things, I try to find, I guess, similar analogies that I can kind of play in my head and, not be able to get intimate with the details per se, but still have a mental grasp over the actual forces involved, or else the math doesn't come fluid to me. It's just me trying to, memorize formulas, and that's not really, how I enjoy moving about things.
Do you have any comments on that ferrofluid cell, Eric?
Well, he hasn't sent me any of that stuff yet, so, I was expecting that, but I need to see this stuff myself before I can say anything about it. I mean, it all sounds very interesting, but like I say, he just dropped off the air and never sent me any of the material, and I don't use the internet, so I have no way of finding any of that stuff, and so I'm awaiting his material, and then I can comment on it.
So you're asking about the ferrofluid cell. You were at the conference downtown Coeur d'Alene in 2015, right?
Yes, sir. What's the big guy with the?
Yeah. So you remember remember I had one of those, that the guy who came up with those sent me one, and actually.
Oh right. Yes.
Yeah. So after you were up, next to me on stage, I showed that thing and had it in the back with all those photographs and stuff. And so I don't know if you saw that, Eric, but I had one sitting on a table in the back of the conference when we were doing the conference downtown Coeur d'Alene, and it was round, maybe 4 inches in diameter, and I could plug it in, and it was illuminated by LEDs, and placed magnets around it, and you'd see the different patterns and stuff.
I think I vaguely remember that, but I was so wrapped up in trying to get my presentation together that I was pretty much absent for the rest of anything else.
Well,
that presentation was particularly difficult to put together.
Right.
And it was, I was pounding away on it right down to the last minute.
Yeah. As far as I know, that was the first public demonstration of one of those, because I don't recall his name right off who was making those, but he sent me one to kind of put out there. But next time I come down, I'll see if I can just bring that with me, and you can play with it and see what you think.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, because I remember in the live calls that were a bit earlier, there was a man. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. I remember in one of the live calls earlier, I think this was months back, there was actually an individual that was talking with Professor Eric with regards to trying to frame formulas for this stuff so they can simulate it in three-dimensional, modeling so that people could get a better grasp of what was going on. And, I've seen magnetic films before, but this thing was giving like 4 inches of holographic projection depth, so I was baffled, and they were definitely not the same kinds of, I guess you could say, archetypes that you'd normally see in what you see in a magnetic film. Like, there was just so much going on. I don't know if the light was maybe adding to it, or I wasn't too clear of the phenomena. And if you go to the website, it's actually ferrocell.us. He has all the stuff there, and he himself says that he doesn't exactly have it quite pinned down of what exactly is going on. I'm just shocked this thing hasn't gone viral. I mean, just from a visual perspective, it's very aesthetically pleasing and definitely mysterious, even for those who aren't really dabbling with the whole electrical realm of things. But yeah, if there are no questions, I do have one more follow-up, but if I have to wait in line, I don't mind either.
With that ferrocell, I think, it was on one of these calls where I think he offered it up, and then I connected with him, and he sent that to me. And the film you're talking about, like that green magnetic viewing film, it does definitely give another depth compared to the green viewing film, which all that green viewing film, by the way, is actually all manufactured here in Spokane, Washington. Interestingly enough.
Interesting.
But, if you have another question, go for it.
Okay, so this one's a little bit weird. During my studies, of course, we all wander in our journey of trying to understand things, and I had a mini integratron moment, not necessarily working on something, that was really, out there as the integratron was, but a friend of mine was talking about a man, a Canadian man by the name of David Hamill, and, I'm not really a UFO enthusiast, and I know Eric hates that stuff, like the dark, but one of the interesting things about him is that there was an engineer that actually went up and investigated the work himself, and I don't want to get into it too much, but there are 2 phenomena that were documented that occurred with this device that I wanted to actually just ask from afar, and it can be phrased in an electrical engineering question, I guess, but one of the main things that is described by the engineer is that when there are in a device there are 2 magnets that are in the position of attraction to each other, but they're not let to attract per se. They're kind of teasing at a distance and then made to dance in circles. And then it's in a container, and there's air that's flowing through, and so the air is moving past the point where the 2 magnetic fields are kind of dancing with each other, but not necessarily connecting. And what's described is that there's actually a form of ionization that occurs from the air that exits that point. So what I wanted to know is that how can that be framed from an electrical engineering understanding, and can that be framed from an electrical engineering understanding? Does that actually follow up with the theory of how things actually go about?
Well, I don't know. I have to see what you're talking about before I can comment on it. So I'm not familiar with what you're talking about. I would have to see some information on it. And you're saying this relates to the integratron?
No, basically, it was just, for me as a personal moment, it's just one of those things where there was an engineering reality to something, but at the same time, the nature of the study was kind of framed in this really esoteric realm kind of way, because there was more involved to the individual that was claiming about what was going on than just what you would normally see in an academic venture or whatever it may be. So that was just me kind of introducing the topic. It doesn't really have to have to do anything with the integratron, but just simply put, it's just two magnets that are in attraction position. They're not touching each other. They're just kind of standing apart away, and they're held like that, and then there's air blowing in between the space where the two fields are kind of colliding but not snapping together. And the claim is that the air that enters that zone where the fields are and exits, it gets ionized. So I just wanted to know whether or not that's actually a reality. I mean, I'm still conducting.
Yeah, that I don't know. You know, there's people say these things and whatever, but I can't comment on that stuff. I don't know anything about it. So, you know, all I basically know about is what I've experienced and what I've researched. All these other things, I mean, you know, I've had to shut most of this stuff out because it's just a distraction. There's all these little anomalies and people claiming this and that, and I don't have time for that. I have to stick with business. You know, the things that I've already determined. It's just if you like what all this stuff really what does is I've determined in the long run is it just pulls you off the main path. Everybody has all these notions and ideas, and then, you know, UFOs and all the rest of this stuff. I mean, I went through all that with Borderland, and it's just all distraction. That's what I regard it. You know, I mean, I might be right or wrong, but I can't. It's just, you know, there's a sea of this stuff. It'll just lead you through Brownian motion into a path that goes nowhere. I just have to reject the whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. The realm of speculation doesn't do much good to the reality of things.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
You know, I see the situation. You know, I mean, okay, here, you know, I'm with Aaron, and then somebody brings in the free energy machine. It's this 800-pound behemoth. Oh, this free energy machine, secrets or whatever, you know, and you know, you can't move the thing, and half the stuff's missing, and then myself and I believe was Paul Babcock, you know, sat together and analyzed this, and basically what it is, it's a dummy load for human energy. It's just, you know, you want to throw another $10,000 down the toilet bowl? It's fine. You know, I mean, the plumbing will accept it, but it's a distraction because that's what this monstrosity allegedly has done has already been accomplished and videotaped in that first Borderland video with myself, Peter Lindemann, Michael Knotts, and Chris Carson. It's already been done. So why flush, you know, time and energy down the toilet bowl for somebody's crazy idea? I don't have time for that. I have to stick with Tesla and Alexanderson and all that kind of stuff and not get involved in random noise. I mean, I'm trying not to be an asshole, but I have to be realistic about the situation, particularly being, you know, how many years of my life do I have left, you know, glaringly evident laying here in a hospital bed with tubes in my arms, you know, to be fooling around.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, I appreciate the response, and it's definitely a reminder for myself as well not to get distracted. Definitely there are a lot of people who have come with their own claims, and it's really not just about making a claim per se, but it's following through with those who, you know, left the foundation behind that actually gave the world something like the way Tesla did and whatnot. So
exactly.
I appreciate the response. If there's time, if I can give one more question, I don't know, Aaron, if there's anyone else in line.
Yeah, go for it.
Perfect. Okay, so one particular person who's actually you know, well known for his work as well and has been mentioned rather faintly in a lot of your presentations, but I know for a fact you do see some value in his work is Dr. Walter Russell, and he's really one of those guys that's it's almost as if his work is just one of those things where I feel like there's just so much that's important in it, but because he, I guess, came across the work from a very deep experience that's just beyond the veil of the seen world of, I guess, if you may, and so his duty was to attempt to explain the process that exists in a world where words don't exist, kind of. And so I've been really trying.
When you're dealing with Walter Russell, you're going back to the world of the presentation I gave in the ether is related. Power ether is related to music and electricity. You're going back to Robert Flood. You're going back to the Rosicrucians. You're going back into the symbolic rather than the vectoral and geometrical aspect, like arose with Johannes Kepler and what have you, which is naturally going to be extremely repulsive to scientists and engineers and what have you, that are based on the Kepler principle rather than the Flood principle. So the value I see in Walter Russell's work is symbolic. It's what it does to your mind, not what it is buildable out of it, but what it does is it opens your mind to a certain coordinate system or what have you, and it makes you think. It's more like music than it is physical theory, if you understand what I'm saying.
Definitely. I feel like it's almost as if his work gives the mind the necessary easel that it can paint on of whatever it is, the actual picture that it's supposed to be looking at.
Exactly.
So
there was one diagram that I saw that had quite an impact on me, because I experienced this at my research facility at Landers. There was a massive cumulus weather formation that was attached to some kind of telluric activity underneath the Earth, and it was exchanging immense quantities of electricity, and lightning was just shooting straight out into the sky, and the signals I were getting were the most wild sounds I ever heard. And it was this double conical, which Russell uses a lot, and of course, the double conic is the very arch form of all engineering mathematics, and he had portrayed this in the formation of a tornado, which I know are electrical in their nature, because they have a specific signal that I can pick up thousands of miles away. I can even determine their existence on the bottom of the band on the AM radio in my car. I use that in the lack of any other equipment to let me know what the Earth's doing, because the thing will go nuts before an earthquake. And there's this mirror image of the tornado inside the Earth, and that was the diagram. He had a 4 or 5 step diagram. I think I even used it in my presentation of how this process begins, and it was amazing to see that that somebody had portrayed this on an artistic level, and it was just so accurate to the whole process. It had kind of a psychological impact on me, and it helped me visualize what I had experienced through my instruments and what I saw happening out in the desert in Landers.
Yeah, definitely. I've experienced something very similar as well, especially after reading his the Universal One book, because basically all his books are literally edits of his previous versions until you get to the new concept of the universe. And it's just how he portrays things. Like it always boggled my mind, because every single time I finished the book, I never felt like I understood what he was saying, but it was almost as if my own receiving band of intellect was widening, and I didn't really understand why. But then when it was just his manner of thinking. It just, it lended the mind a tool that just made the things that were always painted to me complicated become very simple. And even Tesla, in some of his articles, when he describes things, he always says, according to my simple mind, the way he thinks about things, and that whole natural philosophy outlook of things as well. So it was definitely, like the way you've just phrased or summarized Walter Russell's work is exactly what I would tell to others. I mean, some people will go really deep into it with the spiritual side of things, and again, the man is just talking about things that are far beyond the reality right now. I mean, most people aren't even connected to themselves, let alone the things that are beyond themselves. And it's definitely dangerous to kind of tread with his work because you can really get lost in some of the deeper metaphorical ideas that he's trying to paint to you. But I definitely agree, especially with the tornado diagrams. I've seen it. There's a clear diagram of telluric energy it's just like the Earth's crust, kind of, or the surface of it at least is the equator, and then the atmospheric phenomena is basically a reflection of what's going on in the interior of the Earth, and it's kind of like this dynamic system that creates that weather phenomena. And definitely, as soon as I've seen his diagrams, it made all your work with the earthquake research so much more easier to understand, because I was always thinking, when I see a hurricane, I always see these NASA images of these huge clouds just, rotating with a force just beyond conception. But I always wondered, like, how can someone pick up a signal thousands of miles away from a phenomenon that's really happening above the ground? And that was just the eureka moment right there. And it was really brilliant. So definitely he's been a good aid in terms of helping me boil down the concepts more to something that I can illustrate within my own mind and make the math much more easier. So I definitely agree.
Yeah, that's the value of his work. You have to remember that he's an artist. He's not a mathematician. So he's trying to portray his ideas on an artistic level. They're not particularly suited to be expressed in words, but the diagrams they connect. That's what's important about it. Yeah,
it was very synchronistic, I guess you could say, that a man who supposedly had the opportunity to see behind the veil just also happened to be, a phenomenal artist who did sculptures and paintings for some very, very famous people. And if you see his work, it's almost as if the ghosts of these people are staring back at you. It's truly phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, he has I think he has a bust of Thomas Edison, and it's it's something that Edison would really be proud of. So he's a very, very good artist. He can really capture that the aura of what's going on.
Yes, it's almost as if the details of what he's staring at possesses his brush, and it takes it away exactly where it needs to be. It's truly phenomenal, and his work, to me, when I appreciate it, it's much more. It's more, the appreciation is deeper than just the serotonin going off in my head. It's like I feel something deeper within me, and I'm definitely inspired. And he always talks about how the concept of inspiration is not something man can do per se, but can provide a medium through work that in turn can then inspire others. But it's kind of a philosophical thing. I don't want to get lost into it trying to explain it. I mean, I'm sure he did a better job than I did just right now, but for sure, he's definitely been a very good mental aid, and he's one of the people that I've put in the clear when it comes to understanding your work, because there's a letter of him talking about Nikola Tesla to someone else. I haven't been able to verify the letter per se, but just in his beginning of the book, as soon as I saw Tesla mentioned into it, and the fact that both of them consult with each other, I was just boggled, because Tesla apparently I've never been able to fully look into the quote, and I wish I could so I can have more, be more assertive with providing this piece of information. But he said that Tesla essentially told him to take his work and lock it away in the Smithsonian for 1,000 years until humanity was ready to understand it. And to me, that was just that was the moment that let me give Walter Russell a chance. Because if that was said by Tesla, then God knows what Walter Russell himself understood about things. And it would be
interesting to try to find verification of these statements, because a lot of these things are just said by people arbitrarily. But it would be interesting to see what kind of connection there was, if any, between Tesla and Walter Russell. The thing I want to point out is don't think of Walter Russell as an isolated individual. I really recommend going back to the work of Robert Flood and what he was trying to portray, and what he felt in his time, which was way, way back there in, I think, the 1400s, 1500s, that this was something that was generally understood, and he regarded himself as the last of the people that had the power, this versor diagram power to actually make things happen, the voodoo level reality, which today is completely disregarded, but there's that aspect of things. That's what I got into in that music and electricity presentation, was to try to give an overview of that whole subject. At any rate, it might be good, other people have questions on other things right now. I think we've covered this pretty thoroughly.
Definitely. I appreciate your responses. Thank you, and I hope you feel better.
Go ahead and say your name, where you're from, and go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Aaron. This is Jeff from down south. Sorry I couldn't make it to the funeral, but I sent Steve along, and he said he met everyone and thanked everyone.
I met him. Thank you.
Yeah. Eric, are you? Can you say what your health problem is?
Yeah, I have bone marrow cancer.
Okay. I have an expert, if you'd like, that I can get in touch with that's flying around with Trump right now. Would you like to? I'll try and get hold of him as soon as possible. What can you have Aaron email me the details? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into that topic too much on the air, but
no, but just have Aaron contact you by email.
Yeah. If you want to do that off the air, I mean, I'm going along with the program here, but any additional information, or I have my own methodologies that I'm going to employ at the same time to try to enhance the situation and minimize the prospects of failure. And if there's other things that you can relay to Aaron, and then Aaron can relay them to me, that would be good.
Call me if you can back on this number, if you would.
Yeah.
You can see the number, right?
Yeah, we'll just email me, Jeff, with your.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, that's all I need. I would stay longer, but I don't want to. I'm kind of shocked right now. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Okay, Jeff. Okay, thanks. Let's see. Does anybody else have a question? Go ahead and hit 5-, and I'll go ahead and unmute you, and you can ask your question. We're at 2:53 right now. So we're getting close to an hour. And so if nobody has questions, we can wrap this up in a minute. And not sure when we're going to be able to do another one. So again, Eric's website is ericpdollar.com. In the right column there, you can write Eric a letter directly at his Lone Pine general delivery address. And also, if you're able to want to support the work, because it is moving forward, I will be posting the video and some pictures of the recent progress on the Advanced Seismic Warning System, hopefully sometime by the end of this week. And I'll be putting that video up on YouTube and putting that on Eric's page. And also, if you want to make a donation and kind of help move things along a little bit easier, there's a PayPal button there where you can donate to the project if you want. It is EPD Laboratories, Inc. is a 501c3 charitable nonprofit registered in the state of Nevada, so it's a legitimate tax-deductible donation. And so, do you have anything you want to add, Eric, or any requests from people or anything else?
No, I think I pretty much stated everything that's going on this end. So I was hoping there would be more questions on the subject, but I guess there isn't.
Yeah. Okay, so that last chance, if anybody has a question. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Okay, so I'll go ahead and everybody right now, we can go ahead and wrap it up. I don't know when we're going to be doing another one of these calls, but we'll definitely be posting any updates and look forward to the video and pictures of the latest progress that Eric shared with you about the seismic project. And I guess with that, I'll just get a hold of you later, Eric. And just so everybody knows, I was originally going to just put out an email to cancel this call because Eric is in the hospital, and Eric insisted that we still do the call anyway because he feels good enough and wanted to do it. So anyway, thanks for that, Eric, and thanks everybody for being on the call.
Thank you,
Eric and Aaron.
Hey, thanks everybody. We'll talk to you later. Thanks, Eric. I'll get in touch with you later.
Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Okay.
Presentation of what's going on inside the Earth, both man-made and natural, and it's kind of a tragic situation. There is so much stray power line electricity flowing in the Earth from this aberrant utility company in the state of Nevada that the interference is roughly 16 million times stronger than the signals generated by the Earth. So it seems like this antenna project is going to be more of studying the aberrant and parasitic behaviors of the power grid in the state of Nevada than it is in determining exactly how the Earth signals operate. But unfortunately, that's what we're stuck with, but there's ways to get around that. And we were able to get significant Earth signals out of the system when we went outside of the power line frequency band and the harmonics. So basically, this being the test site, it's going to be mostly the mathematics and the phasings and IEs and what have you, and I guess it's some kind of cancer situation, but I've been assured that they're going to get me back out in the desert again here before long, and I don't really have anything to worry about, so that's good, but it takes me away from things for a while, but I kind of need a break anyway, so I'm not really having any worries or anything to complain about right now.
Right, and it's something that's commonly easily treatable.
Yeah, that's basically what I've been told. So the treatment is known to be effective, and then I have my own methodologies and what have you that I restore my body when it gets into bad situations. So it's scary, but I have confidence in the people here that they're going to get everything set right, and they feel confident. So that's just part of getting old.
And so up until the point to where you had to check yourself into the hospital, you and a few other people, including one or two. But we're going to get started here in about 1 minute. And I got Eric Dollard is on the line with us, and Eric is actually on the line with us from the hospital. And he still wanted to do the conference call anyway, and so he's on the line from his hospital room. We'll kind of get into that a little bit, but we don't have a specific agenda plan for today, except Eric has made some pretty serious progress out on the Advanced Seismic Warning System on the antenna lines out in the desert, and he can kind of cover some of that, what's been happening in the last couple months. So we're going to get started here in about 1 minute, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start muting everybody out, and then when you want to ask a question, just hit 5*, and that will let me know to unmute you so you can ask your question. Okay, so it's 2 o'clock right now. Eric, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay. So this call is being recorded. This is Aaron Murakami. Today is November 20th. People from the last energy conference had actually come down there to help you on the antenna lines out in the desert. maybe share with everybody kind of what kind of
we actually made quite remarkable progress. It was about a 30-day work effort because of this thing that has knocked me into the hospital bed. I wasn't really able to keep up like I would have liked to with everybody, but at any rate, we got a lot done. Justin got the wires on the cross arms for 1/4 of the Alexanderson antenna, so we have one element of the Alexanderson antennas complete. All the damaged utility poles have been replaced with the exception of one. The 1 mile long Alexanderson antenna system, the poles are in and the design is laid out. We have the 1,200-foot section up, and we were able to outfit the Corolla with all the necessary analysis equipment to make a video
2016 at 2 p.m. Pacific. I have Eric Dollard on the line. He's actually in the hospital due to a few health complications. So like I mentioned, Eric has made quite a bit of progress on the seismic line, and recently he was on the road and was in Lone Pine and had to get checked into the hospital, and he got flown. Eric got flown to a medical facility where he's doing okay right now. So I don't know, just since you wanted people to at least know, kind of what was going on, Eric, do you want to explain a little bit about the health concern right now, and then we can kind of get on.
Yeah, well, I started with uncontrollable bleeding when I was out in the Mojave end of the project, and then I went in the emergency room, and they found out that my body was not generating any more blood, and that I drained much of myself out, and was emergently flown to a major hospital in northern Nevada, where it's been determined that my bone marrow is no longer generating blood, so they have a process. They're going to have to put me through all this therapy